Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you.
Hi,
Can you
I'm
go ahead and
excited to
get,
be here.
yay? Can you go ahead and get us started with an brief introduction?
Yes, ma'am. My name is LaTasha Stigger, and I am the assistant principal at Richards Middle School.
Awesome. So, how long have you been an assistant principal?
So this is just my second year of being an assistant principal. I got to come in on the wonderful COVID year. And so this is my first year of having all of the students in the building.
That's awesome. So, how long have you been in education in general?
In terms of education, I've been in education, I believe this is year 12. So I've done a couple of years in the classroom. I was an English teacher, and then I think it was 3 or 4 years as an academic coach, where I got to work with the teachers, and now here I am as an assistant principal.
Perfect. So, what type of education or training is required for you to be an assistant principal?
So to be an assistant principal, you have to go through the general training for education. So I went to school. I actually did my undergrad in something that was not education. So my bachelor's degree is in psychology, and I have a minor in sociology. So nothing that had to do anything with education. And then after the fact, I realized I kind of wanted to go into education. So my master's degree is in education. After that, once you get your bachelor's, you can go into education, but the more education you have, the better the pay is, the better opportunities that are laid forth in front of you. So I've gone back to school a couple of times. So I have my specialist degree in education, and I also have an educational leadership, which allotted me the position or the opportunity to be in the position that I am right now.
Perfect. So one of the things, I'm glad you told us about that path, because one of the things, like, the kids see us and they're like, well, she's always been an assistant principal, or she's always been a school counselor. So that's perfect for you to tell us about your journey. So where did you go for and we've been talking about bachelor's and associates and masters and even specialists in the world of education. So where did you go for your bachelor's degree?
So for my bachelor's degree, I went to Georgia State University. Go Panthers. That is in downtown Atlanta. I absolutely loved it. So that is where I went for my bachelor's.
Perfect. Now, what about your master's?
For my master's, I actually did online. So I did University of Phoenix online for my master's. And so I was able to do that. I had just had my daughter, so it allowed me to be at home with my daughter and still work my full-time job and get my degree that I needed. So it was one of those, how you see on the commercials where they're up late at night and they're studying, and that was me getting that master's degree.
Perfect. And what about your specialist?
My specialist, I went to Columbus State University, right here in good old Columbus. So I did that one. It was at Columbus State online, most of the classes. I actually did get to go in to some of those. So those are always nice because you get to work with people in your field and get to know people. So, yep, that's where I went.
Perfect. So another question, and I'm kind of all over the place. This wasn't in the ones I sent you, but you talked about like having like a previous career, like a full-time job while you're doing your transitioning to teaching. What's your previous experience or previous careers before you came to education?
So before I came to education, I actually was in the banking field. I've worked in mortgage where, calling lenders and trying to help people get houses. So I worked in mortgage, and I also was a bank teller. And so I got to kind of work with the money and, help people get accounts and all of that stuff. So that's where I was right before I started my job in education.
Perfect. All right. So what led you to leave all that behind and come to education as a career?
So I'm always one that I've always wanted to work with kids. And so when I got out of high school, I was like, I am going to be a pediatrician. Like, yay. And then you realize just how much science that takes. And science was just not some people they love science, and no, science wasn't my cup of tea. So then I had to step back, and I was like, oh, I can go the child psychologist route. And then I realized that in some aspects of that, I'm always dealing with a student that has an issue, or a person that has an issue. We're never happy and cheery, and, not always, depending on where I went. And so I had to take a step back and say, okay, where can I go from here? And education, just, I had some friends that were in education. They loved it. And I was like, yeah. So you think back on people who influenced your life positively, and my teachers. I've had several teachers that have just stood out, and I can remember them, and they played a great role in my life. And I figured that's kind of how I could influence students. And you get the whole gamut. I get the happy kids, I get the sad kids, I get the mad kids, I get everybody. So it kind of fulfilled that need to work with kids.
Perfect. So what does a typical day consist of in your field?
Oh, Jesus. I don't know. It depends on what day of the week you ask me this question.
Mhm.
But a typical day is we come in, we make sure all classes are covered, because um, I think what we need to think of when we're thinking of kind of like my day and age of an administrator, COVID plays a big role in it. And so we have, today everybody might be here. Tomorrow I might have 3 or 4 teachers out with COVID. And so it is, who can I place here to make sure my kids are covered? Who can cover these kids? So that is pretty much how my mornings are spent is making sure classes are covered. And then once classes are covered, we kind of do, we do a sweep, and we walk the hallways and make sure all the kids are kind of safe and covered. Checking emails. I am the COVID liaison, so I spend a lot of time talking to parents on the phone and just making sure, hey, is this student sick? Or, hey, we're going to have to quarantine. So the kids, sometimes I'll walk in rooms and kids are like, oh God. And I'm like, I'm not quarantining anybody right now. So, and then in the midst of that, you still have situations that arise, students that need to talk to someone, students that like to report incidences and events. You have fights and you have disagreements. And so in the midst of all of that, I am dealing with those situations as well.
Perfect. So what do you enjoy most about your career?
Um, that every day is not the same. Today might be a bad day. Tomorrow might be an absolutely wonderful day. Today, the kids might be absolutely just so mad at everybody. Tomorrow, they're going to try to hug you, and you're like, but baby, there's COVID. So it is never the same. And I love the fact that it is never the same, because I am not one of those people that does well with, let me come in and sit down and type and go home, and come in and sit. It doesn't work. So I need the change of scenery and the change of events.
Perfect. So what are some challenges that you faced in your role?
Ooh, you get a whole lot of personalities when you work in education, no matter if you're a teacher or, an administrator or anybody, you get a lot of personalities, and it's sometimes hard to deal with and be able to function with every type of personality. And so sometimes I find myself, I have to step back and be like, wait a second, let me think about this. Let me take into consideration the person, and let me, revamp how I handle this person. So I can handle, Ms. Williams one way, but I might have to handle Ms. Stevens another way, because we've got 2 different personalities and everybody doesn't deal with the same thing the same way.
Yes. Perfect. So how do you see your career, or even your company, or even the school system evolving in the next 10 years?
Oh, I mean, if you look at it, can you see how much it has evolved in the 2 years that we've had COVID, where we've gone from, yeah, they have computers, but we're not really using them, till we've become kind of, we rely on these computers. When we don't have them, it's kind of like, I can't do my lessons, I can't teach these lessons. And I think it's going to evolve even more, because you have this aspect of virtual learning and, virtual meetings and all of that stuff. So I see us becoming way more technologically advanced, especially because we do have all of these resources available to us, and even more to come. So the advancement with technology and being able to do a lot of things, a lot more things digitally, in terms of like field trips and meetings and meeting other people. And we can do that stuff now, but it's going to get even better in the years to come, especially once teachers and schools get an understanding of how to do it and how effective it is. I think that is it's going to like push education to some place where it's not at right now, and it's going to be really good.
Yes, perfect. So what kind of person do you think is most successful in your field?
Someone that is extremely flexible. It takes a lot of flexibility. It takes a lot of understanding, because you have to look at, as much as you want to say, the rule is this, it is supposed to be this. Sometimes you have to look at the situation and say, well, this student doesn't have the means to get this, so let me supply it, as opposed to I'm going to write you up, I'm going to send you home, I'm going to suspend you. So flexibility is extremely, extremely important. I think COVID has taught a lot of people that too, because we have been very streamlined in the field of education. And with COVID, it has taught us. I mean, you have some days you'll walk in and I'm watching a classroom. Some days you'll walk in and, I mean, Ms. Williams, you'll watch a classroom. We have to pull buses. Mr. Henderson has pulled trash for the custodians. It's all about flexibility and someone who is willing to work as a team. And you have to be open to criticism and advice, and you have to be able to listen to it and not always take everything personally. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, not just kids, but adults, and being able to listen. People say, well, this is where you're messing up and this is where things aren't right, and being like, okay, I understand, without, getting upset and getting mad and saying they don't want to listen to me. So flexibility, being a team player, having an open mind to things, all of those are really important in the field of leadership.
Perfect. So you touched on this a little bit as well, but what does communication look like in your field?
You have to be very open, and it's hard. It's having those hard conversations with people, especially when we're talking about like our teachers and the people in the building. Being able to have those hard conversations and say, you were wrong in this situation. Let me explain why I think you were wrong. And then being able to listen to them. Those are hard, even with the kids. Those are hard conversations to have. But getting to the end point where you see, you can be able to say, do you understand what I'm saying? And they're like, yes, ma'am. That helps out a lot. But having those conversations when you're thinking, I'm a worrier. I don't know if people know, but I am a worrier. It stays with me. I will stay up at night thinking like, oh my God, I have got to have this conversation with this person. And what if it goes this way? And I'm mapping out, every situation, and it's going to go, if it goes this way, then I can say this. If it goes this way, I can say this. Those things are, so, and then you get into it and it's not as bad as you thought it was, but those are some hard conversations to have. So that is that's the big one for me.
And you hide it very well that you worry.
Thank you. I try.
So, and you touched on this as well, but what kind of technology do you use in your field?
My laptop is big. My cell phone, it buzzes all day. So I have like my personal cell phone that buzzes all day. And then I have a work cell phone. It buzzes all day. That has become really big with COVID. Parents will like text me and email me on the school phone, and they're like, hey, this is what I got. And I'm like, okay. So that one has become really big. Walkie-talkies. I get fussed at all the time because I forget my walkie-talkie, and Miss Chris is like, you didn't have your walkie-talkie? So the kids don't just get fussed at by Miss Chris, she fusses at me too. So I'm trying to remember to keep my walkie-talkie with me, because that is how we communicate throughout the building. So they can call us, but cell phones have become like my cell phone is my really big one, because it is always on me. When we have incidences, the teachers can let us know, and we can kind of get where we need to get quickly without having that walkie-talkie and things of that nature. So my laptop, my cell phone, I can survive a day with those two things.
You need to get you a fanny pack so you can put your
yes, ma'am.
Put your two cell phones and your walkie-talkie on it.
Oh yeah, the days where I wear something and it doesn't have pockets, I'm about to die. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, putting it in your hand is just
right. And I hate carrying stuff. I hate it.
Same. So what kind of classes would you recommend for a middle school or a high school student to take if they're interested in your career or one similar?
I know that a lot of the high schools offer a teacher prep program, and I did one of those when I was in high school, and I had no idea that I would end up in education, but that class was really good for me. And in the day and age that I took the class, dear God, in the day and age where I took the class, we were able to go over to one of the elementary schools and work with the classes at the elementary school. And that was really fun. And I think that helped me foster like the need to want to work with kids. I just never thought education just never popped in. But those teacher prep classes are really, really good. It teaches you about lesson planning, which kids don't understand, that teachers have to sit down and create a detailed lesson of today we're going to cover this, tomorrow we're going to cover this, and hope that maybe the day will, things will pan out where you stay on schedule, which 9 times out of 10 it won't, but at least you tried. So it teaches you all of those things. So teacher prep classes are really a good thing. Surprisingly, math classes, we do a lot of data in education. So as much as we say, I hate math and math isn't my thing, data is really big. So you want to take those math classes. Also, classes that deal with computer classes. I use Excel for everything. Excel, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, creating formulas. Those classes are really good because it just helps you streamline things and make things a little bit easier for yourself.
That's perfect. I took it was called Teachers Cadet back in my day when I was in high school as well. We went over to the elementary school. But I think it's teaching as a profession now, or the early childhood education courses in high school for those of y'all that are on your way out the door. So perfect. So do you have any advice for our students here at Richards?
Oh, stay strong, y'all. I know it seems like it's pointless. And I know it seems like the teachers are hard and but it really in the end is extremely beneficial. It prepares you for high school, and high school prepares you for the real world. So don't think that we are being hard on you. We care about you. If you see us slacking up and not caring, then there is a problem. But because we are hard on you, just know that we care about you and we want you to be successful, and we see that you can be successful. We just want you to kind of realize that you can be successful and you can do anything you want to do. So stay strong, keep the faith. You got this.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.